Welcome everybody to another edition of the In the Paint Show, presented by Ballislife, episode 145. Chelsea, Hopkins, Ani Umana, and Ronnie Flores here for another episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the previous 144 and about the last 30 on video. Obviously, you can catch many of them on audio on your favorite device, iTunes, Spotify. But Ani, how's it going, bud?
Oh, it's going good. Season rocking. We got Thanksgiving Hoop Fest coming up. It's busy time in the high school world.
Yeah, there's going to be some big games as you're watching this pod. I think there's going to be some good big games in Utah. Already, we're going to have Arizona Compass facing Montverde. So, again, our two of our top four teams are going to go right at it. Chelsea, how are you doing? I know you went to Italy. How's your season going? You back in Israel?
We had a week off. I spent some time in Italy because I have a friend, Sequoia Holmes, who's actually playing there. So I went to Milan for the week. I really enjoyed myself. Never been there before, but it was very cold. So my knees were hurting the whole time, Ani, literally walking and freezing. But it was worth it. And now I'm back in Israel. We have a game in about 10 days from now. So just kind of getting back in the swing of things. Right now we sit at 4th place, and the next game that we play is for 3rd place. So we're right there. We're good.
Kind of like the NBA. It seems like, especially in the West, like team could be in 5th place, and then next day, 2 days later, they're in 1st place. Then like 2 games separate them from being in 8th place. Like, is that good, you guys think? Or is that good for the game? Or is it more like, hey, the Bucks and Boston are the best team and all this is just for show?
No, I like it. I like it like that. I like it where it's tight, When you're the 4 seed, you can't be comfortable because you can be an 8 seed, or you could, all of a sudden be a play-in. So I like just the competitive nature, when it comes to like playoff seed.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Ani. I like it. It makes it a lot more interesting in the regular season. A lot of the criticism of the NBA is that people don't start watching until the playoffs.
Right.
Sure.
But I do think that experience and championship pedigree kind of shines through, more towards the end of the season. So sure. I would be surprised if like the Utah Jazz remain number 1 in the West and we're, just a quarter through the way of the season. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Again, you go on a 5-game winning streak, that's like real big. Now you'll jump up 3, 4, 5 spots in the standings, and there's still hope for like even the Lakers and other teams, that maybe didn't start off so well. So we'll follow that. And obviously we're following the young guys. That's what we're going to talk a lot about on this spot. Some of the, the young stars of high school basketball and kind of where they stand and as the season rolls and kind of historically, with some great players like Imani Bates, who's trying to right the ship at Eastern Michigan, and LeBron James. And we're going to have a special guest who's going to talk about that, kind of like 20-year retrospective of 2003, their national championship when LeBron and his team, Dru Joyce III, Zion Cotton, Romeo Travis, they won the national championship, and kind of how it started. His father's still coaching at the high school ranks, and his brother's coaching at the high school ranks in Ohio. So we're going to talk a little bit with him about that. But we're just going to start off and talk about, various topics, just kind of things that kind of came across the news wire. Obviously, so much happens. But, what quick thing, Ani, what did you think of Chris Brown not being able to rock his MJ Thriller performance 40 years later? I remember when Thriller dropped, you guys weren't around. Just that whole time was huge. Michael Jackson's bigger than life. Obviously, he passed away in 2009. But if anybody can rock MJ, it's Chris Brown. But we don't get to see it. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I was disappointed in that because Chris Brown would be the best at reenacting that. I mean, you could probably find someone that would be close, but I thought not allowing Chris Brown to do it just killed it. I really wish they let him do that because he'd be the best at it.
Yeah, I more felt a way about the way things were done. Apparently they just pulled his performance without any type of real explanation. And, if you know how much, time and effort Chris Brown puts into his craft, I'm sure he was working tirelessly on this performance and, being able to, have a great showing. And for them to kind of not give any explanation, I just felt was weird. And, Chris Brown has had, his struggles with different things and, domestic violence and stuff like that. And You know, I'm kind of like in a rock and a hard place with the situation because I just feel like, you know, at the same time, people deserve second chances, and that, you know, a lot of the stuff that happened was in the past. But you know, if this is what we're kind of holding against him, then maybe we should at least make it known, as opposed to just kind of like pulling his performance. Correct. And kind of, at what point in time do we let it go, if at all? Some people say, well, hey, it was just Rihanna, it was a one-time thing. Then other people say, well, no, you know, he did it kind of to Karuchi too. So I'm just, as a woman, like, it's I understand, but it's not fair. So I'm kind of just like in between, which it would have been nice to see it, but I'm okay not seeing it. Put it that way.
I just think they just need to have, there should have been an explanation, you know, like you said, just cutting it off. And the thing about it is, he actually did that. Like, Twitter would have gone crazy. Like, you know, it would have probably done him better if he did do it, because he would have done a hell of a job. So like, that's why I'm like, you know, the world kind of missed out.
Sure. From the performance standpoint, that's what I think too. You know, since Michael Jackson has died, obviously at the end of his life, he wasn't making the money he was in his Thriller and Bad Days. And obviously I went to school in UC Santa Barbara, and his Neverland Ranch wasn't very far away. So you always hear about it. But like, you know, obviously like anybody else, when he passed away, like his estate, the value of his estate went through the roof. His estate's making $100 to $500 million a year now in his death. And some people are saying they're very protective of it. Like, people have been sued for using Michael Jackson like images and things he owns. So we don't know if that was on the other end. Maybe his estate didn't want somebody to do it. We don't know that, but you know, that's a possibility too. But yeah, just from the performance standpoint, I was joking. I'm like, Michael Jackson is so popular that Chris Brown is more popular for being his best imitator than for being Chris Brown. You know, they're like, well, some people would know him just for that, like you said, that don't know that much about him, but like Michael Jackson, but like, wow, look, that guy's so talented and awesome. So, you know, we'll see. Hopefully somebody can do it. Hopefully somebody can do it on the 50th year anniversary of Thriller or something like that. You know, it could be set up where people know it's coming. And I mean, it was such a, you know, his album was so huge at that time. It was unbelievable. Obviously, his VHS for the movie, it's like a movie, really. The Thriller video is more like a movie, a small movie, and it was like the greatest selling VHS tape of all time. So we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully Chris Brown can put out some good music and put out some performances in the future. How about the World Cup, you guys? What do you think about that? Any interest? You know, obviously, America's not huge on soccer. It's too bad. You know, a lot of kids play soccer, and maybe it's going to be bigger in the future, but it seems like it's not on like people's radar, obviously on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah, I didn't really follow it. I ain't gonna lie. But you know, my first love was soccer.
Yeah, well, for me, like
I hear what you guys saying.
Like my first love was soccer. I played soccer for 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like people don't realize I played soccer since when I was like 2 years old to about 15, 16. I was really good at it, but I was just like, you know, Mama, I want to play basketball. Like, I'm good. I want to play basketball. I'm gonna just stick to basketball. So, but like, she was so mad at me because I played like I was really good at it, but I was just tired of playing it.
Were you a little burned out, or was it just not as, you know, maybe your friends weren't playing as much, or what was the main thing there?
I think I was burned out. I think I just really loved basketball that much more, and I wanted to focus on that. But also, like, the game changes. So, like, when you're like 5 to 10, 11, you know, it's more pure than then later on you go into more the club situation. It's more politics, and then like there's more flopping when you get older, and I hate flopping, like. Because I'm just someone that just was like, I was a physical dude, like a defender. So like I hated all the flopping. I was like, you know what, man, like I'm gonna go to basketball. And there's flopping there now.
There's more flopping. You got more flopping, dude.
But I'm telling you, there is way more flopping in soccer than basketball. Way more. I couldn't stand that. It's weird. I hated the flopping so much. I said, Mom, I'm done. Like I'm gonna get a yellow card every time.
Funny. Ani, what do you think about the high school flopping and them trying to emulate? Have you noticed that this season or lately, trying to emulate the pros, you know, especially in the post, or just kind of pulling the chair flopping? I saw that at a game recently. Do you think that's a good, if referees emphasize that, try to get that out of the high school game, because there's a lot of it. There's more of it than used to be, for sure.
Yeah, they need to get that out. I am not a fan of it. I've been seeing it more, like guys flopping, just falling to the ground, pretending like they're hurt. Like, get up. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think that needs to be a tech. In the high school level, they need to make that a tech, just like they do in the NBA level. Like, they gotta stop. They gotta stop doing that. I mean, these kids, I saw a kid barely get touched and he fell to the ground like his face was hurting. You know, I'm just like, man, just get up. Like, what are we doing? So I don't know. I can't stand it because, you know, you see it, but, you know, like they see that they emulate what's up at the top, and that's what they see in the NBA level. And it's embarrassing.
It's a bad thing. Well, we used to play in the blacktop a lot. We always thought like falling was a sign of weakness. Like you're on the ground. But you wanted to get up as soon as you can because you don't want to be like, yo, I'm off balance, or like, I'm not, you know, I can't guard this guy or whatever, you know, however you thought of it. And like, you always wanted to be on balance. I think maybe as players are more athletic, or obviously they're indoors more, they don't mind falling because it kind of finishes their play. You know what I mean? And sometimes it legitimately is finishing your play, like you slide or something. Like, you don't want to do that outdoors. You know what I mean? You wanted to stay on your feet. So like, yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully it's a point of emphasis and they keep continuing to get rid of it, because there's a lot of it in high school. It's pretty interesting that, but you know, we'll move on. Well, you know, Mexico's playing right now, so I'm a little bit interested. And Mexico's literally playing right now as we're doing this pod, so I hope they win. Their pool is with Argentina, so I think those are the two favorites in that pool. You know,
Argentina lost yesterday though. It was like a huge upset. Did you see that?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So maybe Mexico will go ahead in the standings and take the first place, but obviously it starts getting real exciting when the elimination bracket comes. You know, it's just like any tournament. You know, so we'll follow it a bit and hopefully it runs smooth. I know there's always a lot of politics behind who hosts it and where it's at. Qatar, you know, obviously it's a very small country, very rich country, but we'll see how it plays out. Moving on to a more serious note, it's something that came across. Kobe Bryant's daughter, Natalia Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant. You know, she's 19 years old, growing up fast, obviously. She's already been through a whole lot, especially in the last few years. Now she has it's coming out, she's in public, she has a stalker, I believe a 30-year-old man, and he's DMing her and telling her, I can't wait to make a baby, and maybe the baby can be a ball player like your dad, and just some weird things. So, you know, this probably happens more than we think. I don't know, I want your guys' opinion on that, but to me, I guess, Chelsea, are you surprised something like this happens to a young lady with a big name like that, or what's your first reaction?
I'm definitely not surprised. Like, you know, unfortunately, we live in a really like sick and like evil world. So a lot of things happen that honestly don't shock me. But especially when you're like a celebrity kid, which I feel like she kind of falls in that category. Like they need protection, they need extra security because people are nuts. Like, and this is just another case. And like I said, they're not always publicized, but you know, people deal with this kind of stuff all the time. And it's unfortunate that she's young. And you know, when you're young, you're at an age where you want to, you know, be able to feel safe when you're just doing regular things, hanging out, going to the mall. But like, unfortunately, that's not the life that, you know, some of these people live. So I feel sad, and I'm hope that, you know, nothing really becomes of, you know, this man that just can't stop DMing her all the time.
Yeah, that's just I got the notification in the morning, like when I woke up, and I was just like, what is going on? And like reading the story about the messages he's sending her and buying a gun and all that. It's sad because you do see that like women do get stalked into that magnitude, especially celebrities. And but I see it with regular women. That, I mean, it's just, I don't know, just sick. And then she's already getting through the process, her losing her dad, losing Kobe, and then him making a comment about birthing a son named Kobe and all that. Just like what's going on? Like, it's just sad that there are just men that are that sick.
Yeah, they're that sick. And I think a problem, and I think we kind of touched upon it on a previous pod. I kind of mentioned my grandfather and where he lived in LA, and he met my grandmother, and if they didn't hit it off, in other words, if they didn't, you know, get together, he would have saw her many, 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 many times at a store because they couldn't go nowhere. Like he married somebody that lived around the block from him, basically, or down the street. And so people were very cordial because many times you would go out with somebody and that person would marry somebody you know, or that person would marry somebody down the street, and you still had to be cordial with them. You know what I mean? Because they were neighbors. They were literally neighbors, and now that's not the case. You meet a guy and he could be in another city. A woman could fly to another city. A man could go to another city. It's so much access to people. You know, that's the scary. You have access. I could inbox basically anybody. I don't have to know them, right? And tell them, hey, how you doing? Or tell them something crazy. And it's like, that's just not something people thought about as much. This is more for women to worry about. And then you wonder why they block people. I heard somebody on Twitter the other day, a woman say, yeah, I blocked 2,000 people. I'm like, wow. I was just like, you have to block it. Like, it's not even something a dude even thinks about. I haven't blocked one person ever. I don't know what, you know.
I blocked a couple. I blocked
Ani,
I blocked a couple.
Ani, you got fans, or you got crazy fans. I don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but for Chelsea, it might be something you have to do. You might have to block somebody that's acting up or something, you know. It's just crazy. So for her to be 19 and probably just starting her life, just starting college, to deal with that is unbelievable. But it's also a very sticky situation because they're talking about the cops and LAPD and things like that. They're under fire. And you know, I've known, this is a personal note. A friend of mine who played college basketball at TCU for Billy Tubbs, he's LAPD. He's been on the protective detail for Vanessa before, when Kobe was alive many years ago. Yeah, you know, I don't know if it's again, I don't want to say it all because I don't know how that works out, but it's on his off time if he you know, he's been her bodyguard in essence before. So, you know, God forbid, Natalia Bryant, that's a huge name. And as we know, in LA, the cops are under fire, the crime is under fire, like the amount of crime we have. And we have a new mayor, and she's got to run on the crime ticket. I mean, crime is pervasive. Everybody's talking about it right now. So God forbid, they know the reason why the cops are or people are worried about what the cops are thinking about this is because it's a public relations disaster, potentially. If something were to happen to that young lady, it would be very bad across the city. People would feel unsafe. It would be a flashpoint, just like any other thing that, you know, obviously we don't want to talk about it much because we don't want nothing bad to happen to her, but there's a reason why people are talking about this, because it's a public thing, you know. So hopefully everything works out and nothing becomes of this. We don't want to spend too much time on it. You know, EA Sports, on this change of subject. EA Sports, talk a little bit about that real quick. They're bringing the football game back. You know, they haven't had it in 10 years. It's going to supposedly come back in 24. What's your thought about that? What do you think about the players actually being in the game, not just their likeness? Like, hey, you play for Texas Tech. We're going to give you, you know, $25,000 and you're going to be in the game, you know, compared to just your silhouette. And hey, that's a 6'1" African-American guy. Kind of looks like Ani, but we don't know if it's Ani, you know?
Right. No, I'm excited about it. I was a big NCAA football, 2K basketball, college basketball fan. So like, I'm excited about it. And I'm excited the players get paid. You know, like you could, I remember, I think it was NCAA 13 or 14 football. Like the players looked exactly like you said, like that player. And then you could download the roster with their names and it looked exactly like that player, you know? So now for them to get paid is a beautiful thing. I'm just happy they're getting paid and I'm excited for it back. I'm going to be playing it. Like I loved NCAA football. I don't play Madden, but I'll play NCAA football.
Interesting. How about Chelsea? Did you ever play a video game with like a college player or any of those when you were younger, or not too much?
I actually, like, I'm not really so much into the sports games. Like, me and my brother grew up with everything, Sega, PlayStation, but I used to play good old Mortal Kombat, Crash Bandicoot, you know, just classic games. So I never really got into the, you know, EA Sports games. But I will say that I'm happy that as long as the players are getting paid, then it's fine with me because, like Ani said, the players look exactly like the likeliness. You know, they got away with many years of just kind of imitating, you know, the current roster of all these different teams without having to give out any compensation. So I'm actually interested to see how that's going to work. I haven't really heard about them bringing this game back. So I know with the new NIL agreement and stuff that since they have to be paid, how are they able to disperse it? Have you guys heard anything in regards to how they're going to do it?
No, I think that's why they're delaying it 1 year, because people thought it was going to come back in 23. It's going to come back in 24. So I think, to your point, Chelsea, that's what they're working on. Like, how does that work with EA Sports? I think that's more interesting, like you said, to me a little bit. How does that contract work? How does that disbursement of any funds work to the players? Which players are on it? What schools agree? They already got the licensing for the helmets and for the uniforms for them from the various schools or from the NCAA. So that is a big process in itself, getting the licensing. As we know, we can't an athlete can't endorse things in NCAA owned products or logos, whether it's Jared McCain or Mikey Williams. They can't, Mikey Williams can't have a Memphis logo on his on his endorsement. It's funny, I went to Mikey Williams' first game and I counted the cameras. There was 39 cameramen there. And
wow.
He also has a burrito from a local taco
that kid
stand.
is getting paid, man.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I wish I would have. I'll share with you guys a photo. I wish I could have shared it on the spot. I just thought about it, but yeah, he has like a burrito. A burrito. I don't know what's in it, and I didn't try it, but Mikey Williams has a burrito. So,
Well, speaking of him, though, so what are your thoughts on his commitment to Memphis? Do you think it's a good look, a good opportunity for him? Like, how do you feel he's going to fit in there?
Yeah, I think with him and JJ Taylor, who's his high school teammate, who's from Chicago, who played at Donda, they're both committed there. Obviously, they have a good rapport. But when I look at it, like, I think for Mikey, it's a no-win, because if he doesn't want to go there, if the roster is not the way he wants, he could just go pro or go to. He'll have another option. He could even sit out, really, with the amount of money he's making. But he obviously doesn't want to sit out. But I think, Chelsea, to answer your question, the pressure's on Penny Hardaway more than the players. Like, the thing with the Monty Bates and Jalen Duran didn't really go too well. Like, if those players are not to the level that we expect, or based on how much notoriety they have, like, there's going to be a lot of heat on Penny Hardaway. I know he's the born son, he's the prodigal son of Memphis, and he's from there, and people love him. But like, he's got to win. At some point, he's got to win. So they got their work comfort out for them. Corona Centennial beat them pretty bad. So it's not like they're the best player. It's not like Mikey Williams is the best player in the country. He's the well-known player, but he's really a top 50 player. And we'll talk about that here as we switch gears a little bit, but about the top players. But yeah, him and JJ Taylor are not right now dominant, per se, high school players. So they're going to have their work cut out for them at the college level. They need other pieces. And again, when you have a roster made up of a lot of Memphis players and you bring in the stars, you gotta make sure that works, because that seemed to be a problem when they brought in Imani Bates and Jalen Duran. You had these guys who are from Memphis or from Tennessee. They're in the program. They're working hard. They're expecting to play a lot. Then boom, you bring in these two guys and now their playing time's cut out. So the dynamics has to work. I think that's the main thing.
No, I agree with you, Ronnie. There can be two quality pieces for Memphis, but Penny's in the hot seat. Maybe not far, but he has to win. At this point, he has to win. They're on an okay start right now, but for Mikey and JJ Taylor, I mean, it's a good place. Like, they can fit Penny's system, just how he likes to use his guards and his wings. And if it just doesn't work out, they're still going to be hot commodities for high major programs or whatever they want to do. If Mikey wants to go pro or whatever, so there's flexibility there. But I'm with Ronnie. Like, Penny has to win. He has to get it done. Those are two kids. They come in. They're not going to be stars right away. They would be, maybe rotation pieces.
Sure. So
it just is one of those things. A good commitment for Memphis, but Penny still got to win.
Yeah. And speaking of those two guys, they didn't. We talk about the national players of the year, the best players in the country. Like we said, they're good pieces. They're not. I'm not sure. Jalen Duran's a pretty good NBA player, and he was pretty good at Memphis. I'm not sure they're to that impact, but they didn't appear on any of the preseason ballots for Mr. Basketball USA, which is a national player of the year that I've been involved in for many years. And we've had the tracker now where we vote on the top players, their progress through the years, 2008. So I guess this would be the 15th year. 15th year, 2008 season when we started it. And before that, we picked it, but we just picked it. We didn't have like a tracker, like a voting panel. We just picked the player of the year, whether it was Greg Oden, LeBron, DeJuan Wagner. We just picked it at the end of the year, the best guy we possible. But now we have a voting system in place. So I just wanted to go over that, go over the voting. It's obviously it's a 10 voters, or a committee or panel of 10. And it's, a 10-point must system, basically. So basically, the first place guy gets 10 points. If you want a guy second place, 9 points, and then so forth and so on down. Third place is 8 points. And there's 100. So if there was a consensus pick, he would get 100 points. So there was a consensus pick before. Ben Simmons was a consensus pick, and believe it or not, in 2021, Chet Holmgren was a consensus pick at the end. He got all 10 first place votes. Jabari Smith had 79 points, so he had a variation. Last year, the National Player of the Year was Dariq Whitehead, who's now a freshman at Duke, and he had 90 points, 7 first place votes. So he still had he was a strong candidate. 90 points is a pretty strong candidate, obviously. So when you look at this year, I think the first thing that jumps out is it's wide open. First place is DJ Wagner, the senior guard from Kentucky, from Camden going to Kentucky. 71 points, 4 first place votes. He got the most first place votes. Second is Isaiah Collier from Wheeler, number 12, Fat 50 Wheeler, 57 points. Third place, 3 first place votes. And nobody else got any more than that first place votes. Besides those 2, smorgasbord. Xavier Booker got 1 first place vote. He's not even in the top 7. Actually, he did get the first place vote, and he's third overall with 43. So the first place votes are thrown around. Even Cam Boozer, who's 4th overall, got 1 first place vote. He's a sophomore at Columbus in Miami, 40 points overall. Ron Holland, your guy from Duncanville, Ani, tied for 5th with Justin Edwards from Imhotep. They both got 36 points. Justin Edwards, I do believe, got 1 first place vote, and Ron Holland didn't get a first place vote, but he got a second place vote. And then we have more of balance later on, like Ian Jackson came in 7th, the junior from Cardinal Hayes, who we've had on the pod, and he didn't have anywhere close to a first place vote, but a lot of people think he's a top candidate. So Chelsea, just wanted to get your first reaction to the top guys, and then, like I said, in regards to how you compare to previous years, with Chet getting 100 at the end, and then this, DJ Wagner's a leader with 71 points, which is not a slam dunk in this system.
Yeah, I don't think it's a slam dunk, and the fact that 5 people garnered first place votes kind of just lets you know that there's no clear cut favorite. Sure. I think probably most of the people in the committee went with the safe pick. Which is why DJ was able to, come up with 71 and get 4 first place votes. But it just seems pretty open. I look at Cameron Boozer at number 4. We've talked about him a lot, just about how he can potentially be maybe one of the best players in the country. But I think being a sophomore, people think, he has time to be Mr. Basketball. So we're not going to necessarily give him the reward right now, even if he kind of deserves it. But that just kind of sticks out. Like, there's no consensus. You've named people that have done it in the past or were just close to 100 points. And we're not seeing that. So I think, honestly, it's pretty open, even though DJ's kind of the favorite.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say this. Cameron Boozer should be number 1. I mean, he's the best player. I know, like, in the past, like, with Amani Bates getting it and, and over Cade Cunningham, that looked kind of crazy. Well, that is crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. But Cameron Boozer he should be number 1. Like, I get it with DJ Wagner. And you know how I feel about the 23 class. I mean, I don't hate, but it's just the voting for this shows you where there's not a clear-cut number 1 in that class, and they still have a lot to prove. And I feel like Cameron Boozer in a year and a half has done enough to make him number 1. So that's just my opinion. Like,
okay, so next strong opinion. He might get 100 points and be a consensus.
He should get 100 points now.
Okay, all right.
So let me ask you this: like you said, for Mr. Basketball, the thing we do, Cade Cunningham was the winner in 220. Imani Bates was in 4th place that year as a sophomore. As you say, remember we're talking about a sophomore, and the top 3 guys were guys that are impact players, which was Evan Mobley and Jalen Green was 3rd place, and then Imani's 4th. At that time, it seemed like, wow, this guy's a generational player. He won the Gatorade National Player of the Year, as you mentioned, Ani, which is kind of like, wow, you look back at it, you're like, wow, that guy was on that level as a sophomore. Do you think now people are being precautious without putting him or Cooper Flag way up there because of what happens with Imani, or do you think what happened with Imani has no bearing on Cam?
No, I think it does have some bearing on him. I think, because people. looking at where Amani is, and even though he's coming back up, especially at Eastern Michigan, there's a lot of big time national guys that saw that they made mistakes. And so they don't want to do the same thing. So they're in a way, they're protecting the Cooper Flags and the Cameron Boozer. But in the reality, just trust your eyes. Like, they are going. It's pretty obvious when you look at Cameron Boozer. It's pretty obvious when you look at Cooper Flag. You know, there could be a lot that happens between now and wherever, you know, we expect them to be. But I think it's just more obvious than Amani Bates, in my opinion.
Okay. Very interesting. Do you feel that way too, Chelsea? Like, because of what's happening in Amani, people are being a little cautious. Like, he's, like you said, he's a sophomore. He has time. Why rush a sophomore? Why put so much pressure on him? Or do you think, no, they're just voting the way they feel is fair?
No, I think that definitely comes into play, kind of what Ani said, but I don't think that it should, though, because when you're voting with anything, you're voting in the moment. Sure. What is this guy doing for me right now? Like, you know, a lot of times we get caught up in potential and what somebody's going to be. And now it's easy to say Amani didn't deserve it because we see that his, you know, the kind of course that he's on right now, you know, kind of reinventing himself, leaving Memphis. But, you know, in that moment, he was the best player. And that's how we should vote. And I think, you know, people are giving safe picks and, you know, nobody wants to be wrong. But, you know, I can be right about Amani his sophomore year and be wrong about him, you know, as he becomes you know, sophomore player or, you know, college player. Like, you just never really know how something's going to translate. And we honestly see that at every single level, from number one picks in the NBA draft to being bust when they finally start their careers, or people, you know, being second round picks and making a huge impact and winning multiple championships. So I think that it does definitely have bearing, but it shouldn't. Like, when you're voting on something, just vote on the best player right now, regardless of what's happening.
Yeah, it's very interesting. As we said, we've done this 15 years. And when we take a look back even further, again, the two guys who've been on that higher level, Amani, and it would be LeBron James as a sophomore. There are only two sophomores to be first 5 All-Americans as sophomores, the first, you know, sophomore players. And I remember they played Oak Hill and they were undefeated. And Oak Hill won the national championship that year, but they lost 79-78. And Oak Hill missed 2 free throws at the end. You know, messed front end of the 1-on-1, I should say. And then LeBron came down and his shot was off. They lost by a point, but he had a great game. And I think that's where people on the inside, you said people that are watching games across the country were like, this guy might be the best player in the country. Because the best player in the country that year the winner was, ironically, DJ's dad, DeJuan Wagner, when he was at Camden. He was the national player of the year. He was averaging 42 points a game. He had a 100-point game. So I think that was in the national spotlight at that time. He had a lot of notoriety. He was on TV a lot. And the other top guys were guys who were going in the NBA draft, which was Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry, and then Kwame Brown kind of came on late. People were like, wow, Kwame's really big. And Kwame became the number 1 pick, but he wasn't close to being the national player of the year. It was most likely going to be Eddie Curry, Tyson, or DeJuan. But now that you look back at it, we probably should have gave more credence to LeBron. And if there was a voting system, we might have, you know, people might have said, hey, you know what, this sophomore is really, really good. And then that summer, he was really awesome. And he was taking it to the next level. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. His junior year, again, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's on the cover of Student Sports Magazine, which I was part of. And he's getting bigger than anything going. And he's a national player of the year. And then his senior year was like a movie, basically. And then they won the national championship. And in his junior year, they lost in the state final. There was their first loss. So we're going to talk to Dru Joyce, the point guard on that team, Dru Joyce III. Hopefully he comes on here in the in-paint show in a few minutes. But yeah, it was very, very interesting when we talk about a sophomore. And I don't think any other sophomores have been on that level. So we'll see where Cam ends up this season. He's going to have plenty of opportunity, you know, to show himself in big tournaments, the Chick-fil-A, the City of Palms. But yeah, you know, I would take a look back now that you think about it. I mean, I like DeJuan Wagner. He was a great story at the time, but was he probably better than LeBron? No. You know,
but he was averaging 42 a game, so I get it. Like, had a 100-point game. Like, there's nobody ahead of Cam that's doing that. So, like, I get it. You know, he's putting Will Chamberlain numbers up. I mean,
oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. If DJ Wagner, all right, so if Isaiah Collier has a 100-point game and averages 40 points a game, he's going to be way up there. And Wheeler's good. It's not like Camden wasn't good. They wanted to, you know, so I think LeBron was just coming on, and his coach at the time was Keith Dambrot, who went on to be a college coach after his sophomore year. And then, those guys, the core of the team was the sophomores. They're all sophomores together. Dru Joyce, Romeo, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dru Joyce II became the coach LeBron's junior year. So we're going to talk to, Dru Joyce III and his brothers Cam Joyce, but Dru Joyce III about, that transition, playing for your dad. And now he's coaching at Duquesne. And just kind of talk a little bit about that and take a look back at 20 years. And then, like I said, it got so big, Ani and Chelsea, that they decided to put his game against Oak Hill, LeBron, his senior year, on ESPN2. And it was the highest rated show on ESPN2 up until that time. I guess the channel had been around maybe 7 years at that time. I don't know the details, maybe 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was the highest rated TV show. So like LeBron just took off from there. Now he was on SportsCenter every night.
Mm-hmm.
His highlights were on SportsCenter. They came out to California for the Pangos Dream Classic. It was another sellout. And like at that time, he was already like a celebrity. Probably the first high school player, maybe besides Kareem, back in the days. It was like a true like A-lister celebrity. So we're going to talk a little bit with Dru about that, how they handled it and handled the expectations. And then him in coaching, like he's in coaching now, just like his father. His father's still the coach at St. Vincent-St. Mary. And
wow.
and he's still winning, so I don't know if Dru has to try to recruit some of his dad's players or like, Duquesne's trying to win, he now is on the staff of his high school coach, Keith Dambrot, who was at Akron for 13 years. And now he's at Duquesne. So that's a very interesting thing. He's almost like coming home playing for somebody that he really, working for somebody that he really knows and trusts. And I'm sure Coach Dambrot has a high opinion of him, and he's very well known in there in Akron and in the greater Ohio area. So, yeah, it's a very interesting story. I know you guys didn't see it necessarily live at that time, but did you guys even hear? Or Chelsea, I guess you were probably in junior high. Did you hear anything about that at the time, LeBron? Or no, you didn't? You were just playing ball, and you didn't. Did you know a little bit about him?
No, I actually did. My dad was a high school varsity basketball coach. So believe it or not, like when we had the big time tournament in Las Vegas, I saw everybody. I even, was with my dad, bronze out there. I just remember my dad coming home talking to my mom about this kid that was like, looks like a grown man. Like, I don't even know if I really knew like what was happening at the time. But my dad looks like a grown man, like he was dominating. So just everybody passed through Vegas at some point in time. So I was very young, but I just remember the stories. I remember seeing with my own eyes players like Kevin Love and OJ Mayo and Brandon Jennings. And these are obviously people that are more around my class. But definitely remember how it was a big deal, just them even passing through Vegas. And then obviously that translates to him being on ESPN and just kind of blowing up from there. Like my dad said, he's never really seen a kid just from start to finish, like Bron, like just be in the spotlight at such a young age and just be able to handle it. And like you, to your point, Ronnie, he was a celebrity, a legit celebrity as a teenager. So I remember.
Yeah, it was very big.
Yeah, I remember it vividly. I remember watching the ESPN games, All-American games, All-American dunk contest. Like just every time he was on, like I watched him on ESPN. I'm like, yo, this man is like, this is incredible. I was just amazed by it. I was like, but I didn't realize at the time because I was so young that like this is so new, because I was so young. I'm thinking they normally do this. And
for every high school star.
For every high school player. But I was like, man, LeBron James is fantastic. Like, So I just remember and they would do reruns like the McDonald's All-American game. I remember they just do reruns. I would just watch it. Not just
for sure. And then that year was at Gund Arena, which was smart. They had it at Gund Arena. It was sold out. Sonny had his game in Chicago. It was sold out. And then everybody knew LeBron was going pro, so he wasn't getting recruited. So he was able to bypass the 2 All-Star game rule. So he played in the Capital Classic at the MCI Center. It was sold out. So like everywhere he went, it was sold out. And he was well known as a young guy with the Northeast Ohio Shooting Stars. They went to AAU Nationals. And they talk a little bit about that in that movie, More Than a Game, that came out years later. And there was actually a videographer following them around all their senior year. I think it was part of a school project. And so it became like a big thing, a huge thing. So we'll talk to Coach Joyce about that. And he was a point guard on the team. What I kind of remember is, especially in their games, is they were so well schooled because they played together since junior high. So it wasn't like a thrown together team or like a Oak Hill or Montverde where guys were coming from different areas. They were like well schooled, you know.
And they were all close friends. Like, you know, we hear now till this day, like the stories of them being brothers and pictures when they finally link up. And I think that they've kind of just had that chemistry, you know, for a long time.
Yeah. And Dru Joyce was like the coach's son. He's the point guard. It's like everything was kind of worked out perfect. And obviously when they were good all 4 years and, you know, when he was a senior, the leader of the team was obviously a guy who he does business now with, you know, Mav Carter. Mav Carter was one of the best players in the country, or, you know, top 100 player. He played at Nike camp. He was well known. I mean, LeBron might have been, you know, the talent even as a freshman, but like Mav was a big, you know, good player and got a lot of accolades. And that was his LeBron and those guys' his freshman year. Mav was a senior, you know, so he's a little bit older than them, you know, class of 2000. So obviously he played in high school from 2000 to 2003. So we're going to talk with Cam's like, it's been 20 years. So that year when they lost to Oak Hill by 1 point, they came back and Carmelo was on the team his junior year. And they played in another big time game. And people were talking about, well, why is this LeBron kid? Is he going to, you know, sit out his senior year and go to the draft? So it was a late February game. I remember it vividly because it was the NBA All-Star weekend. And that game was going on. It was back and forth, and Oak Hill pulled out a close game. I think LeBron had 36. Carmelo had 34. And it's very interesting because now Bronny's going to be playing against Carmelo's son here in a couple of weeks.
Right.
You know, Cyan Anthony. You know, that's going to be very interesting. So it'll be very interesting. That kind of thing, like 20 years has passed quick. I think coach is in a meeting right now, so we're going to wait for him a little bit. You know, he said he's in a meeting, so he's going to jump on. But yeah, you know, we'll talk a little bit about just a high school player then and now. And I don't think for the average player much has changed. I think that was, like you said, Ani, a watershed moment. I think as ESPN is continues to televise games, there's games all over the place. You know, I'm not sure every game has the magic of that anymore. You know, it's kind of a novelty. You know, we can watch a bunch of games on stream now on ESPN Plus on TV. And obviously it's become like a series of games and the competition's bigger and better. But I still don't think a player is bigger than that. You know, people argue like Melo Ball and Mikey, and I'm like, guys, they're not bigger than that, dude. Like, they're not. Like, it's different. It's just something different about it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because you didn't have access, but I don't know if you guys have an opinion about that.
So what about Victor, though? I mean,
that's what I was about to say.
I'm hearing rumblings that he's the next LeBron, and, you know, friggin' people have made comments that, you know, if he was in school at the same time LeBron was, then he would be it, which I doubt, but, you know, that's what they're saying. So what are your thoughts on Victor being the next best thing? And if he played, you know, he's obviously not playing high school basketball in the States, but if he did, I mean, maybe you can make an argument that it would bring, you know, garner similar type of attention. I don't think anybody would ever top LeBron. And like I said, I was 11 at the time, so I have, you know, different memories of everything, but it was still very valid. And social media has changed so much that I think a lot of these games are getting more pub than they probably actually would have, or more than they deserve, just because of it being so accessible to us, you know? That's how you know, like, how crazy it was with Bron, because we didn't have IG, and we didn't have Snapchat, and we didn't have, you know, so everybody's highlights now are getting upgraded, you know, or posted on social media every day, and they're not really like that. Like, you got to hear about Bron word of mouth, or you got to go to the gym and it's standing room only and see it for yourself. And word is really just spreading by people, you know, relaying what they saw. So I think that's why it will never be the same, because everybody's accessible now. It's just different times. But even still, I don't think that there's a player that is going to ever garner that type of attention and maybe even kind of exceed the expectations that people put upon him, like, at an early age.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ani.
You know, Victor would have similar. So, you know, me and Ronnie were there for that Victor and Scoot game, and it wasn't packed, you know.
Yeah.
Even though we were amazed by what we were watching. I was. I mean, we were the hell we watching right now.
Yeah.
But I would feel that if LeBron were to have played,
so
it would have been packed. The gym would have been packed. Victor is like similar, but he's more Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like just whoa, like
you want to see him, look at him. You want to see how big he is.
Yes, right, and he's fantastic in his own right. But like LeBron was that, this is the next GOAT, and especially at the time, I just felt like LeBron would have packed that gym. And then Victor probably had it half filled, even though I think it should have been full anyways, just for if you're a basketball guy. But I agree with you, Chelsea. I think Victor's kind of has some similarities, but nothing like LeBron. LeBron just packed that whole gym. It didn't matter how many fans it could take, he would have packed it.
Yeah. Ani, to your point, I think from the prospect standpoint, it's like, wow, this guy can be something else, and he is from a prospect. Is he the best prospect ever? I guess we could debate that a little bit, talk about that, but you're right. There's certain athletes that have an aura. I haven't seen it too often, live or on TV, whatever you want to call it. So when LeBron came, he'd already been on TV with the Oak Hill game. They blew Oak Hill out in Cleveland, and then he came to Dinos' event at the Pangos Dream Classic to play Mater Dei. And there was already more anticipation, like, oh, we want to see this guy. We want to see this guy in LA. Dude, for the first time ever, the Goodyear blimp was, how it flies over like the Rose Bowl or something? The Goodyear blimp was flying over UCLA, right? Like from the aerial shot. So it's like, this is a big game. You know what I mean? People were trying to get in. It was sold out. And I remember my buddy was scalping tickets. I'll never forget my buddy. He played ball, Dino said, so he was selling programs, and I was like, get a couple programs because it'll be worth something, get it. I'll tell my friends, get a couple programs. And he was selling them. He was selling the programs. And we were realizing like people were scalping the tickets. This thing was sold out for sure. The game was already sold out through Ticketmaster. And when there was other games beforehand, right? It was an all-day event, just like there are now. There was 8 games. The game started at 9 a.m. So, and there was no gym clearing or nothing because it was already sold out. Right. So like when LeBron came out, everybody stood up, like to see their team coming out, warming up. So it was like, Victor doesn't have that yet. Like you say, he has the prospect playing, but he doesn't have the A-list celebrity, like it was the only other times I've seen that happen were at an Oscar De La Hoya fight. Oscar De La Hoya was fighting Sugar Shane Mosley, and Muhammad Ali came out. Everybody stood up. It was clapping, looking at him. There's Muhammad, like, and he could barely, he could barely move. He was barely walking like to his seat, like. And then at a Midsummer's Night Magic used to have this all-star game for the United Negro College Fund in the 80s and early 90s. It was at the Forum. It was very big. So like Michael Jordan had that aura. Like people want to see Jordan. They wanted to see him dunk after the game. So it's like MJ, air. Like, and I remember Michael was sitting there and he was looking at Magic like, are you really going to make me fucking dunk? Like, I don't want to dunk right now. He was sitting on his seat. You know how you kind of put the towel over your head and like put the camera somewhere else, right? And the fans were just like, air. Magic was good. Oh my gosh. Magic's on the mic telling, him, he never not has energy. And Michael Jordan's looking at him like, you god dang it. So he got up. It was like did his kiss the rim dunk, and everybody was just, it was just out of control. So besides those few moments, I don't see, like you said, LeBron had that as a prospect. I don't think Victor has that again, because maybe he's not playing American high school basketball, or he's not playing American college basketball. That could be the reason. The G League, like you said, Ani, maybe the marketing, people don't know it. What day did we go? Was that a Wednesday? Was that on a Wednesday? Yeah, we went on a Wednesday. It was like during the middle of the day. There's a lot of other factors, but Chelsea, what do you see when you see him play? Like, do you?
Okay, I had a question. I have a question, and I am going to stir the little pot. I'm going to stir the pot a little bit because you guys were just talking about him. So I have, like everyone else, have been very impressed with Victor because it's like, oh my gosh, like he's a freak of nature, whatever. He's really tall. He's incredible. All that's fine. So I have not seen him in person like you have, but I have seen his highlights and stuff like that. But a part of me too feels like a lot of his game I've still kind of seen already. Like I hear from a lot of people that he's such a unicorn and there's nobody like him and stuff like that. But I just get flashes of other players that I've already seen. And I think that he's just a little bit taller and maybe a little bit more mobile. And maybe it's something that I have to see with my own two eyes to really understand what I'm watching. But I watch NBA pretty often, and I'm going to throw out some names, and I don't want to be disrespectful, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But Ani, I would like to say, lately I've come across some Bol highlights, and they're giving poor man's Victor to me. Okay,
Ani can't take it.
Ani, what can't he do? He's built the same. He's 2 inches shorter. Dribble, shoot, pass, can do all of it. KD, kind of seeing it. 7-footer. What can't he do? And Victor will be lucky to be a better player than KD is. Yeah. So there's that. So I don't want to downplay it because I haven't seen it with my own two eyes. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Ronnie and Ronnie.
Yeah.
Is he a true unicorn, or are we seeing similarities in these other players that are already in the NBA? And Ani, I would like to start with you. So,
did you just compare Victor to Bol?
I said poor man's. I said poor man.
She did.
Bol. Like, mind you, Bol is having a fine season in Orlando, and I'm happy for him.
Okay, so eye test though, the way that they look and the way
that he moves so much more fluid than Bol.
Okay.
So much more fluid.
You've seen it. You've seen it with your own eyes. So
like I looked at Ronnie and was like, "What the hell am I watching right now?" Yeah. Like at 7'5", that fluid, shoots it the way he does.
Yeah,
8-foot wingspan, block shots at an elite level. You're correct, and you see bits and pieces of some guy's game. But to see it with someone that's 7'5" with that 8-foot wingspan and moves just like those guys that are 6'9", 6'10", or 6'7" is incredible. Just to see someone at 7'5" doing these things. It's different if it's like, okay, Bol's like 7'1", 7'2", but he still kind of moves stiff at times. And he does like he's becoming a better shot blocker in the NBA, but like he doesn't have as many freakish blocks as Victor does. And like Victor can like guard down the perimeter better. Someone 7'5" and move the way he does and shoot the way he does, can handle it the way he does. We have never seen that. Now we've seen bits and pieces from people that are shorter than him, but some of the people that are shorter than him don't even move like he does. That's what's so incredible about him. Like, barring injury, he's a Hall of Famer.
I agree with the movement aspect, but I also saw him slip on a sticker and everybody had a heart attack because his legs folded like a spider. Like, I don't know, so I am, looking forward to seeing him in person, and I'm very sure he is going to be as good as advertised. I just wanted to ask a little question because I just saw Bol look really good. Versus the Detroit Pistons. So I'm just saying,
I see a lot of NBA players look good, and that was their only good game.
I like my guy Bol. Again, I think we look at Bol gimmicky, like he'll hit a shot or do something. People are like, yeah, more of that. For what like you see, when you see Victor, Ani, it's more like, wow, this guy could be great. That's like a great or something. So. I know we talked about it on the draft shows, and we meant because we talked about Chet Holmgren. I just still think the only comparison to Victor is Ralph Sampson. Like Ralph was 7'4", he dribble. Again, the game wasn't where it is now. Like, I think people rejected a little bit of the notion that he could dribble and shoot. Like, get inside, dominate the paint. There were obviously I don't like honestly the Victor. Running 3-pointers and falling 3-pointers. It's not necessary, in my opinion. So that's what we never saw with Ralph. But like getting above the rim, moving, blocking shots, like some of that is similar. Like he was a generational prospect, and then he unfortunately got injured. But he was an all-star as a rookie. He was an all-star for 4 seasons. Then he had unfortunate injuries, and he did 4 years of college, which obviously Victor's not going to be in that position. So Ralph would have really been like a 6 or 7 time All-Star. If he would have just left Virginia after his first year, he would have been the number 1 pick. So again, different times. I'm not saying that Ralph's an all-time great player or nothing, but he's an all-time great prospect.
I agree with
you know, as a prospect, he's one of the best all-time. Like, wow, what can that guy be? So for me right now, Victor, just throwing it out there, for me, he's the 3rd best prospect I've seen. 3rd best
ever. You're saying ever?
Yeah, 3rd best prospect I've seen, because I will say LeBron and Kevin Garnett were. If he now again, Kevin Garnett's maybe not the best player ever. He's not LeBron, but when you look, because we saw Jason Kidd and we saw a few other guys, and we're like, these guys can go to the NBA. And it was like, nah, they're not going to go to the NBA. Even a little Sean Kemp was like that, like, go to the NBA. This guy's going to go to the NBA. He's NBA size. He's NBA ready. And when you saw Kevin Garnett, it's like, he's going to do it. You're like, oh, my God, he is going to do it. Like, what's going to make of this? And then you saw him, and if you really were evaluating, would take the fact that remove the fact that he's a high school player. And it's the same thing you're saying, Chelsea. Remove the fact that Victor is not in the college American system or the high school American system. Like, if I love Rasheed Wallace, I love Joe Smith, I love Jerry Stackhouse. Like, if the evaluation was just pure and right, Kevin should have been the number 1 pick.
Right.
And he would have later, because people would have said, oh, that's a great high school prospect. Let's look at him. He changed the thinking. You know what I mean? You weren't thinking about high school like that. It's like, even in Kevin's documentary, it's like, Pat Riley said some awesome kind of, well, do we have to watch this fucking high school player? Or do we really have to go watch this high school player? Why are we here watching this high school player? And Kevin Garnett was like, I'm going to show you MF for why I'm here. And everybody's like, whoa, look at this guy. In other words, it took some while to change that thinking, that mind frame, you know? So by the time we got to LeBron 7 years later, it was like, oh, he's the number 1 pick. He's the number 1 pick. No doubt. Because I remember I had some arguments with my coworkers, and they're like, Ronnie, Carmelo Anthony's really good. Syracuse is doing good. He's making a huge impact. I'm like, the high school player is better. Trust me. They're like, no, but this guy's dominating college. And then when Carmelo won the NCAA tournament, I told you, I'm like, the high school player is better. You know, like, he could do more. He's better. It's just hard because he's playing against high school players. You know, it's hard to rationalize that to somebody who's dominating college, but you had to see them either on the same court or start, like you said, take away the other 9 guys and just evaluate what you're watching. You know, so for Victor, you got to kind of do that too. And Scoot's a good prospect too. I don't think he's generational. Oh my God. But Ani, maybe you have a thought about that. I don't think he's better than John Wall or Derrick Rose.
No.
He's very good though. Super good. And he's playing pros and he's really good. You know, so I think he'd be number 3 for me.
Who's number 2?
LeBron. So LeBron and him.
Oh, you're talking about, okay. I thought you were talking about like Scoot being number 3 in the draft.
No. Yeah. I think Scoot is a safe number 2 pick. I haven't thought about the other guys after that. You know, so Kevin Garnett just changed the thinking, and he played so hard, and he had so much heart with that. And people made a funny joke. Our guy Clark, who's came on the pod before, he said the Bulls should trade Scottie Pippen for Kevin Garnett, and they would be winning indefinitely for a long time. And he might have been right. I mean, that might have been right. But, you know, that's what he said. In other words, that's how good of a prospect he thought he was. You know what I mean? And other people weren't thinking like that at the time. They're like, no way. Like, he's, you know, let's give him some time. So I think we have on our Guest in the Paint show now, Coach Dru Joyce III joining us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Everyone?
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Thank you for taking your time. I know you guys have meetings. You guys are trying to win every day, trying to win every practice, and trying to win every game. So appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate it. We're got 3 games in 5 days, so got a lot of prep work going on right now.
Got you. You know, we came off the early signing period. Obviously, you're trying to get better, and you're trying to upgrade, you know, your program all the way around. So just talk about that now that, you know, most of the top 50 in the country signed, and with all these high school prospects, you know, how's recruiting going in the A10, and what does your guys' class look like in terms of its makeup?
Well, you know, congratulations to all the young men that did sign. That's a significant thing that happened in each and every one of their lives. The current state of the A10, I haven't paid it much attention. I'm more worried about just
Sure.
Duquesne, what we need to accomplish and what we need to get done.
Sure.
And our recruiting process is a process. We haven't had any commitments or any signees, early signees. I think we took the approach to understand our team more. We had 10 new incoming guys, so we didn't know exactly what we had even through preseason, and we're learning about our team. I think the climate has changed a little bit in recruiting. It used to be early on before you signed high school players and guys out of prep school and even junior college occasionally before you even knew what your team was. But our teams are changing season after season with so many different faces. I think you have to pay attention to who you have in your own locker room first and foremost. And I think that's the approach we're taking. And hopefully we do find some good commits out there when our seniors do leave us.
Sure. Go ahead, Ani.
Yeah, Coach Dambrot, he had a success at Akron, and was competitive at Duquesne. And I know COVID, I know last year was tough. Let's talk about just what's been the process of getting him in the right direction, and just for you personally, with some things that you can do that bring just the positivity back.
I think his success at Akron, it started with culture.
Sure.
I like to toot my own horn and say I was part of that process.
Sure.
I played for his very first team as he took over as head coach at the University of Akron. And what continued to happen is a culture started to be built around how our identity as a team was, the way we played defensively, the way we shared the ball offensively. And then when you start to win, people start to believe in you. Players start to believe in you. The community starts to believe in you. And, recruitment is good. And that's where you see programs, they start traditions. And that's what happened at Akron. His time here at Duquesne, it was a rebuild situation. And he decided to take on a rebuild probably in the last stages of his career, which is difficult,
Yeah.
It's not the same energy as a 30-year-old, 40-year-old man coming into a situation, but he loves the challenge. And, there has been some difficult years. COVID year was in that period of time really was tough on not just Duquesne University, but many universities out there.
Sure.
And right now we're just trying to, build a tradition. And our guys are doing a pretty good job of it. I just want to send a shout out to our team. We got a big win last night, and I can tell we got something good. And it's up to us as a team and the staff to, protect our culture and chemistry and keep it going.
Sure.
I really like that. Just kind of to piggyback on Ani's question, Coach Dambrot was the coach at St. Vincent's your first 2 seasons, and then he moved on to college. Was it expected that your father, Dru Joyce, would be taking over for him in the 2001-2002 season? And also, what kind of impact did that have on you in terms of your career?
So that takes me back a little bit. But I remember first getting the news unexpectedly. I didn't, and I mess with Coach Dambrot to this day, and I tell him, man, the biggest problem I had is I didn't hear from you that you were leaving, right? It leaked out, right? And I don't think he intended it to be that way, but it did. And as a 16-year-old, and not just me and the rest of our friends, it threw us into complete chaos. Wow. Our first notion was we're transferring.
Right.
So, I mean, I joke about the transfer portal these days, but I was quick to hit the button like, oh, we're out of here.
Wow.
I had no idea that my dad would be the next coach up. I don't think he expected it, but one thing Coach Dambrot did on his way out was to the administration, told them who the guy for the job was, and that was my dad. He had been around all of us as players and, and friends and teammates since the age of 9. And for him to step in and take over the team, it felt natural.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense, Coach. You guys obviously had some success, and you guys were a good team before. We talked about before you guys came on that your sophomore year, the 79-78, Hopkins from Oak Hill misses that 1-1, and you guys have a chance to win that game, and the shot is off, and LeBron had a great game. So you guys have had some success, and then you have a coaching change, and then you guys get to your junior year, and for the first time in 3 years, you guys lose an in-state game. It's in the state final. Bron has a good game, but he has some turnovers. Romeo fouled out. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe he got some bang calls and things like that happen. And we know it had a sting, but how did that motivate you guys going in the summer in your senior year? What did that loss your junior year do to you guys?
Boy, it hurt. It hurt. I think once we won the first one as freshmen, you set a goal for yourself, and our goal was to win all 4, right? To win 4 in a row. And when you failed in that moment, you have to think about what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Like what didn't you do? What didn't you sacrifice? Or what got away from you for the season? And that was a self-reflection on 1 through 15 members of the team, because, like I said, we failed in that moment, and it was almost the way we lost too, not just losing the game, just the buildup of the mistakes we kept making, and my dad reminding us throughout the season that these things would catch up to us. So the first thing you think about after that loss is, man, he had been telling us all along, to be focused, to prepare mentally and physically our bodies and be ready to play every game, and, buy into what he was teaching. I mean, it was tough because we had won 2 in a row, the state championships. We had only lost 1 game, and we're in every newspaper and sellout arenas, and we couldn't hear anything he had to say.
So talk a little about that game. Were you guys just like, oh, it's going to happen? Is that what you guys thinking? Like, this is going to happen. No matter if we have a turnover here or a bad shot, we're going to find a way to win this game. Is that what you guys were thinking a little bit?
Well, we had ultimate belief in ourselves, right? We should. We were a confident bunch. We felt like we could win the game. And what people don't know is we beat that team by about 15, 20 points earlier in the season. So we had already matched up against them and seen what their best looked like. But they were the more determined group that day. And it only takes 32 minutes of a high school game to be better than the team. And for those 32 minutes that day they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach, y'all were ranked 23rd on USA Today. Then you're ranked 7th in the Fab 50. Just talk about y'all beat 7 teams from different states. Did y'all know y'all had a special group while I was going, and how special the team was as that season was going on, or do you really reflect now looking at it now? Do you see how special it was, like looking at it now compared to when y'all were going through it?
We knew we had a lot. We knew we were a special team and we could accomplish a lot. The impact that it's had today, no way did we think that was coming. No way did we think that the tradition that has taken place now, I think they've won 9 more championships, or 6 or 7 more championships since we've left. And there's been 2 other NBA players to come from the school. So we didn't know the impact that we would have over the community and the young people in the area. But while we were in it, when we got that first sniff of being in the USA Today, it immediately triggered our minds to let's be number 1. Okay, we got people paying attention now. Let's go ahead and do this thing. So don't if we seen a crease, we were coming all the way through the door.
Yeah, what did you guys think about that, Coach? Are you like, you go into the Oak Hill game, you're on national TV now, everybody's gonna see you. Obviously been on TV before, but I mean, them having you guys 23, did you guys think like, come on, man, what did you guys think anything about that? Or it's like, you know, we could be number one if we get through this schedule our senior year, we could be number one. And then obviously the motivation is there because you guys, like you said, you lost that game to Roger Bacon's. So did the motivation come into play too? And then like you knew you were going to go across the country. So what did you guys like? Did you guys think about that, or is it like, no, just one game at a time and we're the better team and we're going to show everybody?
Honestly, confidently, and you know, we thought we were the better team.
Sure.
We felt slighted at number 23, and you know, it is what it is. We understood that that's people's opinions, and that's fine. But we felt like we were much better than 23. We felt like we were the best team in the nation, and for many of those years, we were always the underclassmen.
Yeah.
Now we're the upperclassmen. We're seniors, right? When we lose to those Oak Hill teams in years before, that's a senior-led team each time we played against them. So now we're the seniors. You know, we're not the young pups anymore. So we had a totally different outlook on it. We knew what was in store for the game. I don't know if they did, but we did. We had it circled, and you know, I thought we would beat them the way we did. Honestly, I told my team that we were going to beat them by 20, and we did. That's locker room talk. That's a little locker room talk.
No, I feel that.
Coach, you just talked about, you know, just the tradition. You know, it's been 20 years and your dad's still coaching at St. V's. Just talk a little bit about how your relationship, how invaluable his mentorship has maybe been on your coaching career.
It's been unbelievable. Without him, I'm not in the business. I'm not, and I don't even want to use the word business. I'm not doing this. I don't think so. I'm not playing basketball. He put the ball in my hands. So seeing him as a coach and being able to witness that day in and day out, seeing what that looked like. And I think the relationships that I seen him have with the other players. See, I knew him. He's my dad. I go home with him all the time.
Yeah.
So that's dad. He's coach, but that's dad. But I seen how other players felt about him to where he was a figure like a dad. And that really stuck out to me. And now being older and seeing players from my generation and even younger come back to visit him and thank him and want to spend time with him, that clicked. Like, I want that feeling. Like that's something that's special. I think for me, seeing that's more than the wins, and I know he feels the same way as well.
Makes sense. Coach, your brother's coach, Cam Joyce, is coaching at St. Ignatius. He's a head coach, and they have a good team. And your dad, like Chelsea said, still has a good team. They're not in the same division, but they're two of the best teams in Ohio. Do you and your brother ever talk about coaching early, or did it just happen that way? Did he want to get into coaching? How did this come to be where like he's a coach now, and what do they talk about when they get together? Like, do they ever, are they going to meet on the court? You know, do they have a, you know, we'll take us through that a little bit.
Well, they are in the same division this year. So that'll be interesting. And they've matched up against each other 3 years. So they play each other every year, which is a tough day. I get excited about it because I hear the trash talk, you know, for a whole year. My dad probably doesn't like to play the game.
Okay.
My brother wants to beat him. So you have that dynamic to it. But I think, you know, for us, you know, like our dad is our role model. And we both have this passion and love for the game of basketball. And even before my dad was a coach, he was a youth minister. So we've always had something like a teacher in the household, right?
Yeah.
And you see the impact that can have. And you just follow it. And I think it made sense for the both of us. Cam's an intelligent young man on and off the floor. He has a beautiful basketball mind, and he knows how to deliver a message and really motivate kids. And I think he's just walking in his purpose, being a coach. So I don't know how it happened this way. He could have chose anything, but he chose this lane, and I'm excited that he did, because he's really good at what he does.
Great.
What advice would you give a high school team with a star that's playing in it? You talked about how your dad, when y'all were playing, saying you need to stay focused, and y'all realized you had to stay focused when you lost, right? What advice would you give a team with a star, or just a young coach with a really good high school team? You know, how do they maintain focus throughout a whole year, especially when they're winning early and they're getting a lot of attention?
You know? Yeah. Number one, I think don't run from the truth, right? Don't run from the truth. We understood who Brown was. We knew he was a star, so no one kept that under wraps. No one was like, he's not. You know, we knew he was a star, but we also knew that there's responsibilities that come with that, and as a leader and a star of the team, part of his role is being able to take the pros and the cons, just like everybody else. And the coach has to be willing to do that too, right? The coach has to be willing to push that guy and not let that star player off the hook. So it's a lot to manage at times, but the biggest thing is just like, if you have that star and your players, like, just protect your culture, because, you know, and don't treat them any different. I don't think they want to be treated different. My opinion of it is they want to feel part of the group. They want to be locked in arms with the rest of the guys or females on the team. And, you know, to the part of staying focused, you just have to understand what your goals are, and don't try to negotiate them. Right. That's when you start getting in trouble, when you try to start negotiating decisions that you've already made. Like, you know, I'm not going to go to the gym this day. No, you've already decided that in the off season that you were going to go every day at this time and get your work in. So don't start, you know, slacking off any bit, you know, if you want to really accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
I like that.
Strong words. Coach, is it, you know, those words are powerful and meaningful, especially to young people. And you were at that point in your time, a young guy. Like, is it crazy to you that 20 years just passed through like in a zip of time? Is it hit you like, man, 20 years ago we were in high school doing that, or is it all making sense?
I would say at times it moves fast, and at times it makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
And I think the most important thing that I got out of it is I just stayed in the moment. I enjoyed the moment. I was present in it. I didn't try to focus on things that I didn't have any control over. So I think staying in the moment allowed me to appreciate the time that me and my teammates and guys, we got to spend together, to appreciate the wins. And for me, those things, they may have moved fast 20 years ago, but they feel like yesterday, because I was just that locked in, and I don't need videos and pictures. You know, these are all word of mouth stories. So, you know, they're probably not the same as they used to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned earlier that, you know, you be special. This could be a special thing, and you're in the moment, and it's helped you guys and the community that you grew up in Northeast Ohio. But did you guys know that then? Like, hey, you know, Bron's going to go to the NBA. Like you said, you didn't sugarcoat it. Dude's going to go to the NBA. He's going to be, you know, a good player. Like, did you guys say to yourselves, hey, we want to do something with this? Maybe we can give back to the community by opening a school or doing some mentorship. Did you guys know right away you're going to do that, or did that happen later?
He's always dreamed big. Now, he didn't voice all of his dreams, but he's always idolized Muhammad Ali and what he was able to do. as far as ignite not only his community but even the world, right? Everyone felt connected to Ali at some point.
Sure.
And that's something that stuck out to him. So him having a school, did he voice it? Did he tell us? No, but is it amazing? Yes. Is it a surprise? No. It's like it's something that's right up his alley. I think being where he came from and the struggles that he overcame, it just makes sense. And we take a lot of pride in where we're from.
Sure.
Each and every one of me and my friends, just being from Akron. It's a small city. We felt that it was overlooked, and no one ever mentioned anything that was good coming out of. No one had the recognition. And we always thought it would be cool if people would one day, if you said Akron, they know exactly where it was at.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's a great thing to end on. Two people do know Akron, and they do know your guys' team, and I'm glad that USA Today motivated you guys, and you guys finished #1. So we appreciate your time, Coach. We really appreciate you jumping on during the middle of your season.
Thanks,
and
Coach.
Good luck the rest of the way. I know you're busy, so good luck in your next few games.
No, thank you all. I appreciate jumping on the show. I had a fantastic time. Good luck to you all the rest of the way too as well.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you, Coach. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Chelsea, what'd you think about what he said? You're a big LeBron fan. He gave some good insight. What you get out of it?
I actually was just more interested in just getting his perspective. I mean, I've followed LeBron,
Sure.
For a long time now, but the thing that said that kind of stuck out to me was just you have to have these goals and you have to make sure they're non-negotiable. And I think that a lot of times, especially me just in my career, I always just tried not to cheat the game.
Sure.
Because I felt like when you do that, like, the game knows they're only going to give you like what you've worked for. But I just like that, even if you don't always attain these goals or whatever, you write them down and you have to attain them or do your best, to get to that point. So that was something that really stuck out to me. But just how sound Coach was, like, obviously comes from a good family, has his dad's, footsteps that he's been able to follow in.
Sure.
And, I think it's incredible just what his high school and, his brotherhood of Bron and Rome Trav and all these people were able to accomplish. And, obviously Bron gets most of the notoriety, but, they built a culture and maybe Bron wouldn't have turned out to be, as exceptional. He was still going to be a star, as they said, if he didn't have these people to lean on. And I didn't get to ask Coach, but I always just think about, like, I've never met Coach before, but I've seen a lot of pictures of him just because Bron really values, the relationship that he has with those boys. So I just feel like I think it takes a village, in anything. And he's a part of LeBron's village. And he's a reason that, he's had so much success, whether you want to, measure how much. I really think having solid people around you makes a difference. And I think that, we know Coach Dru Joyce is very solid. So that was my takeaway.
Ani, you have some closing thought?
Yeah, no, I thought it was just kind of dope, just kind of getting seeing how the whole family's coaching, and I thought that was just kind of a cool experience. And he just talked about, you can't run from the truth, and just talk about how to build successful programs. And I think that's big. I think a lot, with social media and players being able to, post highlights, people saying this and that. I think the truth does get hidden a lot. I think sometimes coaches and just adults, they want to run from that. So I just think just hearing that and just, like I say, just has a real calm and sound perspective on things, and just seeing the whole family come together, and just thoughts of LeBron, that's still family 20 years from now, 20 years since, and then talk about just the legacy of building, them still having 6-7 more state titles or multiple pros, just, they started something special, and it's kept going 20 years later. Like that's huge.
Yeah, his coach is still there. They've been in the Fab 50 before in recent years. Sincere Harris is one of those players he's talking about, who just came through Ohio State a couple years ago and is very good. And yeah, I got that. That's what I got out of two, Ani, the calmness. I want that dude to be my point guard. Like he walk on a stick of dynamite.
You know you're gonna win.
It's like super confident, just very level-headed. And you can tell he's a point guard just from his demeanor. But yeah, that's very interesting. 20 years. It's just crazy that it's been 20 years to me. And yeah, it's believe it or not, they exceeded expectations, if that's possible. Even like LeBron individually that year. It's like, oh, you're the national champs. You guys beat Westchester. You guys beat Modern Day. You beat Oak Hill, blew them out by 20. Like they kind of exceeded expectation. And it goes to what Chelsea said. They had the good chemistry. I think that's what sticks out the most about the Pangos game against Modern Day. Modern Day was a good team, not the greatest team, but they beat them handily. And LeBron didn't have a oh my God game. They were moving the ball. They were sharing the ball very well. That's what I remember about the game. They were sharing the ball very well on the perimeter. And they got the win, and they didn't lose any game on the court. So, yeah, I think on that note, we just wrap up. That was a great interview. I love his perspective. We're going to watch the season go on. We'll see which team is national champ this year. We did start them number 7, so I'm glad about that. If they would have won that Roger Bacon game, we would have started them number 3. I remember we were like, let's start them a little lower. They lost, but yeah, not too much lower than that. So they lived up to expectations. So we appreciate him coming on. We appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, we're just going to jump off now. That was a great note to end on. We're just going to watch games, and we'll come back in a couple weeks after some games are under our belt. There's a lot of games, and we'll talk about them and see how the top players are doing and the top teams as well. So until next time, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me got to mention that there's a Black Friday sale on shop.ballislife.com through Monday the 28th, up to 50-60% off various items. Go check it out. Once again, that's shop.ballislife.com. Our In the Paint promos still work. If you want to hit those up, 20% off INTHEPAINT on the first purchase. So appreciate it. But from now, for Chelsea and Ani, we're going to log off.
Bye, guys.